Hi friends, Jackie here. I just wanted to share a quick video. If you're looking for a quick gift to give someone who likes to cook, I've got you covered today. Today I'll be showing you project number 2, the colorful pot holder from the Mrs. Quilty Box number 1. I will link it above in the card. I started out by cutting 2.5-inch squares, and you will need 16 of these squares, and I just selected different fabrics to cut my squares out of, and as you can see, I think I need a new blade in my rotary cutter. Keep in mind that you will receive 12 fat quarters in this box from the Vintage Garden collection. These fabrics are so pretty. So you'll just cut out, like I said, 16 of the 2.5-inch squares. I'm placing the squares on my little design board, and you'll just keep going until you have 16 of those squares. I have to say that I'm finding this process very relaxing of cutting out the blocks and putting them together, and I'm learning new skills. Typically, I work with scrap fabric and I just piece them together as they are. So this process is completely new to me. It requires a bit more accuracy, but I am really enjoying it. Lay out your squares in a way that's pleasing to you. How pretty are those fabrics? We'll take them to the sewing machine and sew them together row by row with a 1/4-inch seam allowance. I'm back from the sewing machine and I have all my blocks put together, all 16. I need to trim it to 8.5 inches square. You may be a little bit off if you're like me and you're a beginner, and that's perfectly okay. That's how we learn, and that's what's nice about these boxes. You have step-by-step instructions. Next, we're just creating a quilt sandwich. I'm using a backing fabric I already had cut to 10.5 inches because I'm going to do self-binding. You'll notice I'm using 2 layers of batting, and that's because I didn't have any Inso-Bright. And then we will do a stitch in the ditch, and that simply means we're going to be quilting right on the seam. Next, pick a pretty fabric from the Mrs. Quilty Box and cut it to 2.25 by 5.5 inches rectangle. This is for the optional loop tab if you'd like one. You'll iron it in the center, and then you'll unfold it and iron the sides to the center, fold it in half, and sew. And I just wanted to remind you that there is a complete video tutorial for this particular project on the Mrs. Quilty YouTube channel that you will have access to. And here is the loop. I just wanted to show you how easy that was to make. I'm back from the sewing machine, and you can see where I did this stitch in the ditch, and you can barely see the stitches, but it's nicely quilted on the reverse. To do the self-binding, you will want some clips. Now, in the instructions for the Mrs. Quilty pot holder, it tells you exactly how to make binding. However, I find it easier just for myself to do self-binding. I just make my backing 2 inches larger than my quilt block, and then I will just simply fold up everything a 1/2 inch and then a 1/2 inch again. There I am just cutting some threads that I missed. But I'm just going to go all the way around and fold it up, and then I just simply sew it down. That's how I like to do my binding for these projects. And then I will go to the other side and do the same thing. And hopefully I cut it even enough to where it will fit perfectly. And you will need to snip the corners because they're going to be a little larger. And I just snip it out and fold it under. And you'll just keep clipping all the way around. If you're more comfortable with pinning, then go ahead and use pins as well. That would work. And we'll continue doing that until we get to the corners. When you get to the corners, you're just going to snip them so that you can fold them under. I don't have a pretty technique for that, but basically you're just going to snip it so that they fold into each other and you get a mitered corner look. I've got everything clipped. I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew 1/8 of an inch all the way around that edge. I am back from the sewing machine. It's all quilted on the back, and then all that's left to do is to add the hook, and that will be sewn right on the back. I will pin that down. I am going to take it to the sewing machine, and I will just do a simple zigzag stitch across the back and across the front. I'm back from the sewing machine, and there is the loop, and the pot holder is complete. Thank you so much, Mrs. Quilty. I'm loving all the projects. If you're someone who wants to learn how to quilt, I highly recommend the Mrs. Quilty subscription box. I will have a link in the description box below for 20% off your first box. Thank you so much for watching today, and until the next video, God bless.